Okay, hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the Electoral College and gerrymandering. First, let's do a warm up. Look at the quote: "Whoever gets the most votes in each presidential election wins the presidency." In one or two sentences, explain why this statement is true or false. So, understanding the Electoral College. The Constitution's role. The framers of the Constitution debated how the president should be elected. Options included congressional selection, but then people would have no say in their country's leader. Direct popular election, but the framers feared who the people might select. The Electoral College was a compromise, combining features of both. It also reflects federalism by ensuring states have a role in selecting the president. So, how does the Electoral College work? Each state is worth points based on their representation in Congress. Every 10 years, the U.S. Census is taken to determine how many representatives each state will have in the House of Representatives. This number helps determine the number of electors for each state. So, it's the number of reps plus the number of senators equal the number of electoral votes. Who are these electors? Well, they're appointed by each state legislature. Electors must be loyal political party members. Any eligible voter can be an elector, including you. Electors may not hold any other office. They do not get paid and have other jobs. Electors' names appear on the ballot under the candidate they will vote for. So here you can see the candidates. And then here you can see the electors. These are the amount of electoral votes for each state. So you can see Connecticut is here with 7, and you can see that DC is included with 3. So how does the election work? There are a total of 538 electors. That includes DC's 3, the 100 senators, and 435 members of the House of Representatives. Whoever wins the popular vote in each state gets all of that state's electoral votes, except for in a few states, such as Maine and I believe Utah. To win the presidency, a candidate needs at least 270 electoral votes. That is the magic number. If no candidate reaches 270, then the House of Representatives votes to decide the president. This has not happened yet. So let's take a look at the 2016 electoral vote. Here you could see in Maine, the votes are split. In Texas, we have 1 for Paul. We have 1 for Kasich. In Washington, we have 1 for Spotted Eagle. We have 3 for Powell. And we have a blue in Hawaii for Sanders. So, what are the issues with the Electoral College? Well, it's possible to win the popular vote but lose the Electoral College vote. Neither the Constitution nor federal law requires electors to vote according to the state of popular vote. Several swing states get almost all the attention in an election year. So these maps show the attention given to each state by Bush and Kerry campaigns during the final 5 weeks of the 2004 election. At the top, each waving hand represents a visit from a presidential or vice presidential candidate during the final 5 weeks. At the bottom, each dollar sign represents $1 million spent on TV advertising by the campaigns during the same period. So you can see there's lots of money in Florida, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. And in terms of visits, you got Iowa, we got Wisconsin, Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. So you can see lots of attention paid to these smaller areas, not so much outside there. So, who are these presidents who did not win the popular vote? We have 1824, John Quincy Adams, 1876, Rutherford B. Hayes, 1888 with Benjamin Harrison, and then a long time till 2000, George W. Bush, and finally 2016 with Donald Trump. So, does your vote count? Let's look a little bit more at the Electoral College. What are the benefits and drawbacks? Well, it gives advantage to smaller states. It forces candidates to form coalitions rather than appealing to certain areas. It puts control of presidential elections into the hands of the states. And it makes election fraud difficult by creating 51 separate elections. But it's seen as undemocratic. Popular vote winners can lose. Swing states get most of the attention. And it can make people think that their votes do not count. So now we're going to bring our attention to gerrymandering and redistricting. This here is a picture of the political cartoon where the idea of gerrymandering came from, because this is a salamander, which they called gerrymander. So let's take a look at Virginia's previous congressional districts. Each congressional district in Virginia elects one congressman to the House of Representatives. Why do you think these districts are shaped the way they are? Take a moment and answer the question. So, congressional districts. As we talked about before, the U.S. Census is taken every 10 years and determines the number of representatives each state gets in the House. The Congressional Act of 1929 froze that number at 435. After the census, state legislatures can redraw districts based on new population total. And finally, each governor signs off on the new districts. But who makes the districts? Well, in 3 states, we have mixed methods. In the majority of states, it's state legislatures. In 4 states, we see independent commissions. And in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 states, it is political appointee commissions. So, let's look at redistricting in Virginia. So here are the Virginia's districts in 1982. And let's see what happens when we change it to 2016. So you can see a bit of a change that happened there. So the history of gerrymandering. So political parties redraw the districts to their advantage. Both Democrats and Republicans do this. Named for Massachusetts Governor Elbridge Gerry. In 1812, he helped redistrict Massachusetts to benefit his Democratic Republican Party. When mapped, they were said to resemble the shape of a salamander. So here, you could see the shape of the district and turned into a salamander. So, how gerrymandering can swing elections? Well, here's the Republican congressional map used in 2012 and 2014 for the state of South Carolina. Here's a hypothetical Democratic congressional map. So you could see we could increase the number of Democratic districts. Or we can make a nonpartisan congressional map where we get 3 swing districts. Let's look at Wisconsin. In 2008, this was the district plan. You could see Democrats and Republicans were pretty 50-50. In 2010, it changed to include more, to give Republicans more power. They went from 46 seats to 60 seats. And then, if we look at 2012, the current district plan, we can see that even though there are more Democratic votes, there are less Democrats in the state legislature. So this shows you how it can affect legislatures. So let's look at how gerrymandering works. Gerrymandering helps the party in power gain seats in the House of Representatives, and that's for 10 years. It's done in 2 ways. The first one is called cracking, which is splitting voters of the opposing party into 2 different districts. Or packing, putting as many members of one party into one district to limit the amount of seats they can win. So imagine this is a region of your state. The colors represent the political leanings of the people in the region. There are more greens than there are yellows. Can you draw 5 congressional district boundaries with 10 squares each so that green wins all 5? Can you draw it so that yellow wins more than green? Well, let's take a look. Here, we have the 5 districts drawn so that green wins in all 5 districts. Here, we have 5 districts drawn in a way so that yellow wins more districts. Instead of drawing districts where you have a more even representation of voters' preferences, where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can either give yourself tons of power or you could be the minority getting a lot of power. So, other gerrymandering tricks include hijacking, separating an incumbent candidate from his constituents, and placing him in a district where he has no recognition, or drawing 2 incumbent candidates into the same district so they must run against each other. So here's some examples of some severe gerrymandering. Here, Congressional District 4, this one's pretty famous. It goes from Chicago, and it goes out, and it even connects right here in this path right here. It's a very, very tiny path along this road, and then it goes back above Chicago. This is a very famous example. So, Supreme Court rulings on gerrymandering. First, we have Baker versus Carr in 1962, which enabled federal courts to intervene in and to decide redistricting cases. In 1964, we have Westbury versus Sanders, where districts must be made of equal population. And Shaw v. Reno, redistricting based on race must be held to a strict standard of scrutiny. Though, through gerrymandering, only about 1 out of 10 congressional seats are competitive. It makes a shift of more than a few seats unlikely from one election to the next. That is all for today. I will see you in the next video.